Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas. I'm Marie Briel.
And I'm Heidi Henry, coming to you from 3 separate studios at the edge of the Great Red Divide. Today we have joining with us a candidate and is part of our candidate series. And I'd like to invite you to come and listen to our previous episodes at heartlandmamas.com, on all podcast platforms, and at Demcast USA. That way you can catch up on your favorite candidate and hear what they have to say. Marie, can you introduce our guest today?
I will only introduce our guest today if everyone listening promises to like, subscribe, and share, as well as support our fabulous, amazing state representative for the 50th District candidate, Kate Monteleone. Kate, tell us a little bit. First off, the 50th House District is Kane and Kendall. Where exactly are those boundaries?
Okay, those boundaries are... If you think about it, it starts, the north end of the district is Route 64, running from Randall Road west just past Route 47.
Okay.
And then it goes down to the south to about Route 71, give or take.
Uh-huh.
That's roughly the border. Now, it's very irregular, as most districts in Illinois have become, for a host of reasons. I won't go there.
Districts are insane. I have to say you're right. I know both. Come on. Like the way they're drawn is banana pants. We all know why they're drawn.
We all know why they're drawn.
I totally understand.
And next year is going to be another battle over the map, right?
No kidding.
There's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I know our governor feels that way as well. So excellent. Yeah. We need to do fair and reasonable maps done by an impartial third party that uses geographic borders as opposed to voting data.
Right. I think the voting data, I'd like to use population borders as opposed to, what you suggested, Murray. But we know that it's because it's carved up to be a Democratic state, right? So when Democrats are in charge, we carve it up that way. Unfortunately, it leaves districts like yours, Kate, in a precarious position where it's not as important to the Democratic Party to win that seat. So they don't offer the support always that you need. And I know right now that you're still waiting to hear about support from the state. So ladies and gentlemen, help support Kate. You need to subscribe to her page. You need to like and share everything she does. You need to send her money and volunteer your time.
And by volunteer, you can have a house party for her with 3 of your friends in Kendall or Kane County.
Remotely.
That live there.
Virtually.
Exactly, all by Zoom. We can do this, people. Let's get the word out about Kate, okay?
Right.
So before we go, before I get crazy, so you are running for this. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about you?
Okay, well, I've lived in the area for 17 years. I came to Kane County 17 years ago for the reason that I accepted a job at Delnor Hospital. And so I moved my whole family. My kids were in middle school and high school at the time when we came here, and we had to set up roots and did that. And it has been a great place to live.
Wow, that's wonderful.
I have spent my career in nonprofits. I have worked in many hospitals and higher education institutions. I was the executive vice president for Resurrection Healthcare years ago. Also had a senior level position with the American Cancer Society.
Wow.
About 5 years ago, I stepped out of that, started a consulting business it's fun. Okay, I've worked with Northern Illinois University, a couple of other universities, and right now I also have taken on the responsibility of executive director for a network of 6 food pantries.
Wow.
In DuPage County, neighborhood food pantries.
Wonderful.
And this is really wonderful work. I am privileged to do it. DuPage County is the 25th richest county in the country.
I know. I grew up there.
According to the last census.
Right.
Yet we are serving tens of thousands of people from within the county every year.
Listen, behind all those big McMansions out there, because I grew up in Glen Ellen. You know, I know. We had one poor family in my entire school that we knew about. And in poverty in the 70s wasn't as rampant as it is now. As we've eroded the middle class, now we have more poverty. Now we have more need for food pantries. But behind all those McMansions, behind all those strip malls, behind all those grocery stores, behind all those things are these little hovely apartments where all the workers are, where all of your servers, all of your busboys, all of your dishwashers, all of your checkers, all of your essential workers that aren't in healthcare live. And those are the people that you're serving now, because we know 40% of those jobs are gone, and 40% of them, 42% of that figure will not be coming back. So those are people in urgent need, and why food pantries are so important right now. So I applaud you for doing that work.
Right.
So,
and it's a need that is increasing and will increase for the next year for sure.
Yeah.
In fact, Feeding America, interestingly, is projecting that in the 13 county region serviced by the Northern Illinois Food Bank, they are anticipating an increase of 200,000 food insecure people as a direct result of the economic impact of COVID.
You know, the state.
I can say we have several food pantries. We also work with the Northern Illinois Food Bank. We're in Will County, but we have pantries that we support as the organizations, and about 3 months into, about 2 months, I think it might have been late April, maybe May. We left the house because we had to do something, and it was the line for the closest food bank to us, which is like a mile away, was so far out, and we were only out for 30 minutes. And by the time I swung back around, they had a sign, "No more food for today." And that was devastating, because there are all of these cars that are leaving and pulling out and not being able to come in, and moms and dads with kids who need food, and it's soul crushing.
Well, with the feds, vacillating on, extending unemployment benefits at $600 a week. I know people that did not need to go to the food pantry last week that need to go this week because their benefits were cut so severely. And then you have pushback from some people that are like, well, they're refusing to go back to work. I'm telling you, the lady that I'm talking about that works in the eyebrow shop, she can't work right now. Her business is not open, and they don't think they're going to reopen. So that's the company she works for. So that $600 a week was feeding her and her 3 children, and paying the rent, and buying back to school supplies and shoes and everything else. You need tires for her car. And I just, when I hear people say, "Oh, they're refusing to go back to work," I'm like, you don't know the same people I know.
Well, and a better, I think, argument, or at least an argument that appeals to me more, is if $600 a week is $15 an hour.
Right.
If people are not wanting to go back to work with no protections in a pandemic, then you're not paying them at least $15 an hour.
That's
They're
a good
making
point,
more.
Marie.
That's a problem on corporations and mercenary capitalism than it is on workers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Our minimum wage right now is what, $8.75 an hour, or $9 something?
We're at $9 now in Illinois. But I wanted to say,
but it has passed to go up to 15 over a graduated period of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about your opponent, because I know he was opposed to the raise. Keith Wheeler was opposed to the raise to $15 an hour. He's been opposed to a lot of things that benefit workers, from collective bargaining to he's a right to work proponent. The things that he has professed does not help at least 80% of the district you're running in. If I know my numbers right, and I think I do, he's talking about people who make less than $60,000 a year, and those are the benefits that help them the most, and he votes against them in your constituency over and over and over again. And I think people need to be aware of the differences in philosophy between you and Representative Wheeler.
That's right. So there have been many measures that have gone through the legislature in the last couple of years that would support workers. I don't want to say labor necessarily.
Right.
It's workers that my opponent has voted against. One of them is the ability for medical residents to participate in collective bargaining. And if anyone has known a medical resident, has seen what they endure,
right,
and the type of labor abuses to which they are exposed,
right,
you would have to say, how could we not enable collective bargaining for this talented pool of essential workers?
Right.
Right.
That's one. Another example was, up here in Northern Illinois, I think beginning teacher compensation is probably in the mean ranges. Other parts of the state, that is not the case.
Right.
There was a piece of legislation proposing an increase in the minimum pay for teachers to $40,000.
This is a minimum pay to people with a master's degree. So I want people to understand these people already have extensive student loan debt,
Yes.
and you want to pay them $40,000 a year, for Pete's sake.
Yes. We
It's
want
terrible.
to pay them at least $40,000
Right.
a year. We want to pay them a livable wage. We want them to continue to...
Can we throw in there not having them buy their own school supplies? Can we toss that in there?
Yeah, can we toss that in there? Right.
Yeah. Can we give them a living wage and, I don't know, maybe give them the support they need in order to do the job that they're supposed to do instead of everybody else's job?
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes.
Teacher fan here.
So those are a couple of examples of the anti-worker attitude.
Anti-education.
I think has prevailed in this district.
Right. That Keith Wheeler.
No, but there was one we talked about that I felt was particularly egregious.
Oh, yes.
I did not know about this. I don't know why I did not know about this. Keith, could you talk about his disdain for the LGBTQ community, please?
Well, I don't make it my business to say what people think, but I can identify what people do.
Right.
And in this case, there was a piece of legislation that was presented in Illinois to ban conversion therapy of minors.
I'd like to just pause for a moment and do a slight tirade. Conversion therapy has been shown to be unsuccessful, illegal,
cruel,
violates human rights. It is a horrible, awful. If you've ever met anyone who's had to go through conversion therapy,
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It's brainwashing. It's psychological torture.
Yes.
It is horrible. And there was a bill. A bill came up that said, "Hey, we're gonna say we won't force minors to endure this psychological, physical torture."
Right.
And this jackass, and I called you a jackass, said no to that?
Yes.
He gotta go, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a good thing. What the hell?
He's apparently for cruel and unusual punishment for being born the way you are. I found that to be so appalling.
Mm-hmm.
That's a no-brainer. When we have the opportunity to not torture children, we should always seize that opportunity.
Right?
Keith Wheeler,
but we
you're
put
disgusting.
Him in cages, so it goes right along with the thumper in D.C. it's right aligned with the Republican policies, and that is, if you're not a white man, you're not good enough,
Right.
and if you are anything other than a white man or a white woman, or even a white man and a white woman with any different tendencies of what they consider normal, you're worthless. Oh wait, sorry, white man or white woman who makes a certain amount of money.
Right, because if
They
you're
really
poor,
don't give
you
a
don't
crap
count.
about anyone who makes under $250,000
Right.
a year.
Well, in human rights issues, he has voted against over and over again. RHA was one of them that, to me, the abortion rights issue is not about abortion. It's about control of an entire gender. And I know he was opposed to RHA, and I keep thinking that means you're opposed to letting women decide, an entire gender decide what to do with their own bodies. So
Okay, reproductive freedom is what I call it.
right.
The GOP, they love their freedom. They cling to their Second Amendment. They fight the good fight by not wearing masks like morons. So if you want to get the GOP to get on board, I would bet that a significant portion of those libertarian pretending to be Republicans would swing over if you phrased it as freedom. Reproductive freedom. You're taking away my reproductive freedom.
Well, that's an
And
already
they're like, nobody can do that.
That's an already settled issue here in Illinois, and I thank Governor J.B. Pritzker for that, because he did not want to regulate a gender. So thank you, J.B. So
Right.
let's talk a little bit about, you and I talked about one of my favorite topics, a public option for healthcare. So I want you to tell people what your idea is for healthcare, because we know healthcare is unbelievably expensive. It bankrupts people all the time. All the time.
And it's going to be more important than ever, because we know that the federal government isn't going to do anything. Even if Joe gets in, he's going to have so much to clean up.
He's going to need a mop and a bucket.
Farther down. There'll be piecemeal patchwork stuff, but nothing comprehensive.
You're right.
So Illinois, it's important each state has their own safety net, because we know we can't depend on the federal government. So
we
Kate,
need
what's
our
your
own
safety
plan.
net?
We need our own
Yes.
plan. And the public option, I believe, is the great direction to go.
So explain how that would work.
It's an expansion of Medicaid, and I would argue we should change the name because Medicaid has some baggage.
Absolutely.
So call it the Illinois plan. And it would include everybody who's already covered by Medicaid, which is a partnership between the state and the federal government, and permit individuals to buy into the plan. And they wouldn't, it's not free. They are paying a premium to buy in. Now, how does it work that is going to have a positive effect on the cost of healthcare coverage for everyone else? It works like this. Illinois designs the plan in terms of coverage limits, etc. By allowing people to buy in, you're going to involve a large cross-section of healthier, lower risk people,
young people,
make insurance affordable. One of the problems of Medicaid is it covers the elderly and the disabled.
Right.
So it's upside down. You bring in a number of healthy younger people,
right,
just the same way that Obamacare attempted to do. It changes the ratios. So more people are covered. The goals of this are covering more people. It will increase competition in the marketplace because now more people are covered at a lower rate set by the state, and it forces insurers in the private market to compete on price and coverage.
Right.
And it expands consumer choice. So these are the reasons which I think it is the smart way to go. And I am hopeful. We can all hope for a return to universal health care. It is an outrage that in the United States, during a pandemic, people are not covered. It is an outrage.
Right.
Now, there's just an article in Wall Street Journal that detailed a gentleman who was a healthy young guy. He has a family, and he got COVID. He got a
Mm-hmm.
severe version of it. He was hospitalized and then in intensive care. He spent a
Right.
month in the hospital. He left with a $1.9 million hospital bill
Right.
for 33 days in the hospital. Now, fortunately enough, he has insurance and the negotiated rates. This is what people don't understand is, so he gets this bill for $1.9 million. And that's what the hospital and doctors and providers have charged insurance companies. It gets the rate they agree on for services.
Mm-hmm.
So once his insurance, they have a different rate, so it drops down. But
Right.
that still ended up being something like $500,000 for what his insurance was paying for. Now he is responsible for paying for a portion of that on top of
Yep.
what the insurance company's already paid. But that shows the disparity and the truth in what is it? I'm sorry, it's not truth in advertising. It's transparency in pricing for hospitals for healthcare, the
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
upfront price list. And I think that a Illinois Care for All type of program would take away a lot of that overcharging that happens because hospitals have to build in buffers based on rates. So I
Right.
mean, I think it just makes sense, and if people understand it in those terms,
Yeah. And do you know what?
I think that's a good thing.
Living in a rural area and being out in a rural area most of my life, what that will do for rural healthcare systems. I had offered my current representative all the work that I did on a rural healthcare initiative that included public option for healthcare because our small hospitals are closing. We can't
Right.
in some places in the area I'm in this district, people will have to drive over an hour to get health care and then be flown to a sending center. So then they have that air cost on top of the transport cost on top of everything else. And now he wasn't too interested in that. So I'm so glad that you are interested in helping people in Illinois get covered, get insurance, because God knows this is a pandemic. This is the time. I would love to see our younger people that are gig workers be able to purchase health care at an affordable rate and to be able to negotiate their salaries without also having to negotiate this type of benefit. So,
Yes.
bully for you. I
Yes.
love that.
Thank you. Critically important. Critically important to a wide cross section of people, certainly in this district and also in the state.
Right.
So
It'll save
yeah,
lives. It'll save lives.
absolutely.
So, Kate, you have some interesting ideas on education too here in Illinois. Do you want to share those with us?
Sure, sure. One of the reasons I got involved in the campaign in the first place is, like everybody, we pay a lot. We pay a lot in Illinois. And I am very concerned about the burden that homeowners are paying to fund schools.
Yes.
Schools are important. Schools are critically important, and all of our children are entitled to an excellent education.
Yes.
We got to do it. It is, if you think about it, it is the business of the state. Sometimes we don't hear about it as this. But this is the enterprise that the state is responsible for. So let's do a better job of it. But right now, too much of the cost burden is being carried by homeowners.
Right.
And that creates some pretty ticked off homeowners, and it also creates disparities.
Right.
Because wealthier communities will pay more, poorer communities are unable to, and so we have a disparity in the delivered service and quality.
Absolutely. And especially in this time right now, I'm very sensitive to education. I'm a coach. I work closely with a lot of teachers and school districts, and I'll tell you that one of the things that just blows my mind is how people are now realizing the impact of education and the disparities. So I have school age kids. Some school districts are going back in person. When we're talking about the pandemic and kids in schools, you start thinking, okay, well, these are the guidelines. There is no way that these school districts, these schools are going to be able to social distance and to have, and to ride a bus. And there are so many complications where, and then what I found most interesting was looking at the groups that I got invited to for the school situation with COVID. And there's parents who are very confident about their districts going back in person. They have, the sanitizing measures, they have the distancing, they have the space. The older kids will do, and they don't understand that most of the districts in the state of Illinois do not have that luxury. They are in with poor ventilation, no windows. You can't even get 2 weeks supply of hand sanitizer and cleaning supplies and bleach. You cannot even purchase that to have it on stock right now, PPE, just for 2 weeks of a school. And right. The fact that certain districts are like, oh, this will be great, we're fabulous, is just, it's shocking. And some districts, every kid gets a laptop and they get an iPad, so remote learning isn't a big deal. Well, then you have districts where there's no internet connection, or my district is one of the largest districts, and we are only capable of giving laptops to seniors through 5th graders, and now we've been able to do 4th graders. We found the money for that, but that leaves 4 grades of kids who aren't going to be in class in person learning. And think about it, you have 6 sons, and they're all within a 10-year range. So I have 3, and mine are in a 6-year range. So I would have had a 3rd grader or a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and a kindergartner at the same time. And if I only have one computer that my 5th grader's getting, how am I supposed to have my younger ones learn?
Right.
So the disparity, I love that you're addressing it, because it's
a challenge, and we have to do more, better.
Yes.
I love the expression that we used to use at the American Cancer Society, which is doing the best for the most.
I love that. Yeah.
Best you can for the most people possible.
Now, do you see fair tax as the pathway to lowering property taxes and improving our school funding model? Because as Murray and I know, that Illinois ranks 50th out of 50 states in how we fund our education in Illinois. And I did see fair tax before it was fair tax as the pathway to, to pay into the general revenue fund to reduce property taxes. So do you also see it that way, that fair tax is the right pathway, or do you have a different plan?
I do see fair tax to be the path to stabilize the funding stream for education.
Okay.
I definitely do. I think that the evidence-based formula that's been introduced is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But that doesn't address sourcing revenue.
Right.
It's about disbursement. And the plan there is to disperse it to the areas of greatest need first, and until the money runs out, and it's going to run out quickly.
Yeah.
So somebody will be less, receive less benefit than others. But at least the areas of greatest need will be at the front of the queue instead of the rear of the queue where they have been most of the time. The fair tax, I think, is common sense. It is. We are in a small handful of states, like 6 states, that continue with a flat tax.
Right.
Flat taxes are regressive. The people who can afford it least carry the greatest share of burden. And so the prudent and fair thing to do is a graduated income tax. The plan that's been presented is that households with incomes up to $250,000 would pay the same tax, which is 4.95%, that they are currently paying at the flat tax,
right,
or less. So it's the incomes up to $250,000, 4.95 or less. Figure no change.
Yeah.
Marginally, incomes over that will pay a little bit more. But the first $250,000 is still going to be at the same 4.95%.
Right. Right.
And that will generate increased revenue. It will take the burden off of the people who can afford it the least, and it will help to stabilize funding for public education.
Yay.
I love that she said public education.
Because
It's my hero. It's my hero. Sorry, Anna. I may have to boot you out as my hero now. I got Kate. Just kidding, Anna. I love you too. Just a different type of love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I really see fair tax as the pathway to creating equal funding for education from Rockford to Cairo, Quad Cities to Chicago. I live in a very, very well-funded district, and one of the best in the state, because our money comes from what used to be Commonwealth Edison, and they fund our schools. Our kids have everything: laptop, iPad, whatever you need. 15 kids in a class. It's that's a crowded class when you get too big, But we're a rural country school with a big nuke plant in our district, and it has really benefited. That's the reason we moved here. That is 100% the reason we moved here, and super low property taxes.
And Heidi, you bring up a really good point. We talk often, and Kate, you touched on this a little bit. We talk very often about investments and drawing business and companies to somewhere, right? Everybody's leaving Illinois. Well, could it be possibly that we have not the best funded education system? Could it be possibly that our infrastructure is questionable because it needs repair? There's all these things that the fair tax will enable us to do. And equally educating all of our districts all across the state increases the likelihood for corporations to come to Illinois.
Right.
It also increases the likelihood that our students will stay in Illinois and go to universities in Illinois, because there will be jobs here.
Right.
So if people stop thinking about it and start thinking about it as in hey, by doing this, which seems awful, you're going to actually earn it back in 20 years tenfold. But people just don't seem to get that forward thinking needs to happen. Frustrating.
Right. I am glad, we have in the last session, I think last year, the legislature passed a big capital
bill, and we had a capital bill like that for 30 years. 30 years. Goodness. And we did a little.
Now the problem is, if we don't pass the fair tax, it's going to have to be scaled back. And we're not going to be able to continue the capital improvement projects that we want to if we can't pay our contractors.
So necessary.
Absolutely.
Necessary. Oh my goodness.
The financial burden that Illinois has suffered through for so long is directly...
benefit the wealthy.
Well, yeah. It is directly impacted by fair tax. Fair tax changes everything for Illinois. It makes us, one of the best states in the union to live in. And we still are ranked up very high, but we have a few things we got to get our house in order to be, I think, the best. I really think that passing fair tax in 10 years, Illinois will be the state to live in. So...
They still won't pay any attention to us in the national media. Because it's Illinois. But that's
They'll pay attention to Chicago. That's it.
Not even. I mean, unless,
Yeah.
Well, Kate, we have just so completely enjoyed having you on our show. And I want to make sure that everyone listening goes to tell us your website.
My website is electkate50.com.
Okay.
All right. And we can find Kate.
Number. ElectKate number 50. Yeah.
We will put that in our comments. We'll put that in our show details.
Yes.
Give you everything you need to know about it.
We'll tweet it out.
If you want to know more information about Kate, reach out to her. Find her on Facebook. reach out to her via email. Kate is who we need to take this state forward, and to give everyone the best chance they can to be successful. So, I know Heidi and I talk all the time about like, subscribe, share, but I really want you to take some time and get to know Kate more, share her story, share why she's running. It's truly important that we do this.
Yeah. We know, the mamas know that we need more mamas running the show, because mamas get stuff done.
Yeah.
So
That's right. That's right.
And listen,
Do I have time for a little anecdote?
sure.
yes, please.
I used to work with a woman who was always coming to me for when she had a problem. And she was the chief of staff to the president of a university.
Wow.
She was always coming to me for help. And I said, I'm here. What can I do? She said, I want you to know, I always call out the person with the most kids first, because I know they can handle it.
You two
I was going to mention that, okay?
You two.
Like, that was going to be my wrap up here. Okay. Heidi has two amazing children, a boy and a girl. In our pre-show, we were talking about the difference of having all of one gender or another. When you've got one of each, it helps balance it, believe me. And I have 3 boys, and this amazing woman has raised 6 fantastic young men who are contributing to the world and being decent human beings.
Exactly.
If she can raise 6 amazing men and a husband, she can whip the General Assembly.
You know it.
Mm-hmm. Mamas get shit done.
My mother raised 7 children. She got stuff done. She was an RN.
She got stuff done.
So
Yeah.
I love that story. It was perfect. Yes. So please get to know Kate, share her story, and let us know how much you love her. So please find us at Heartland Mamas, MAMAS, anywhere you get your favorite podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, as well as find Kate. Kate for Illinois 50?
No,
Yes.
Kate. Oh,
No.
it's Kate.
Oh, no.
Elect Kate 50. Elect
my
Kate
goodness.
50.
I'll edit. Elect Kate 50.
Yeah.
Please volunteer, donate, subscribe. Help her out. We
Share
can get
this
rid of big
podcast.
conversion therapy, jackass, and have a smart, competent mama in office. Let's go, guys.
Let's go. It's time for Keith Wheeler to get out of Springfield. He's been there too long, and he's just not doing a good job. So, Kate, thank you again for being on our show. Catch
Will
the
you
show
come
on
back and see us
Demcast.
once you're a representative?
I'm sorry. Would you
Will
say
you come back and join us once you're elected?
I would be privileged to do that? Thank you so much.
We would love to have you back on.
You're wonderful.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.